as a carnivore, your palate changes, and any little seasoning you do notice the difference, and it just doesn't even taste that good. With the fruits and everything, I also do feel that it's crazy. I would feel it instantly. My TMJ symptoms starts hurting. My jaws starts locking right after I eat these things. And I'm like, wow. And then the next day I'm sluggish, and it's like a truck hit me if I try to eat any of that. So I'm like, yeah, okay, you know what? I have to stay away from it. Yeah. And it's just crazy because you see how toxic it is. And then you see all these people say, oh, I don't eat sugar. I just eat fruits.
Things like seasonings and things like that. If I'm at like a restaurant and, just sort of get in, I would notice a difference. I just don't want that. It was actually interesting. My mom gave me a book for Christmas. It was called The Most Delicious Poisons. And it was all about seasonings and the spices that we use and how these are actually some of the most potent toxins that the plants use to stop animals from eating them. And we're like, oh, it tastes great. Let's put it on my, put it on my salami, and so it's right. Funny, but we use tiny amounts, right? If you had a mouthful of these things, you really hurt yourself. I mean, all people have to do is look up the cinnamon challenge on YouTube, and you'll see, that a mouthful of cinnamon, and people are like, oh my God, they're balking,
crazy,
spluttering. Yeah, because that's what that is. Your body's reacting viscerally, saying this is poison, this is toxic, get this the hell out of you.
I think even so, as a carnivore, your palate changes, and any little seasoning you do notice the difference, and it just doesn't even taste that good. With the fruits and everything, I also do feel that it's crazy because if I do try to go another, like, oh, I'm feeling good, let me have like a piece of bread, because like in the beginning I was feeling so good, so I'd kind of be like, you know what, can I have this today, or like the blueberries, but I would feel it instantly. My TMJ symptoms starts hurting. My jaws starts locking right after I eat these things. And I'm like, wow. And then the next day I'm sluggish, and it's like a truck hit me if I try to eat any of that. So I'm like, yeah, okay, you know what? I have to stay away from it. Yeah. And it's just crazy because you see how toxic it is. And then you see all these people say, oh, I don't eat sugar. I just eat fruits. And it's like, oh, okay. Okay. Or they're feeding babies, and it's like, oh yeah, I don't feed my baby any sugar. But then this child is eating strawberries and bananas all day. And then the child's not sleeping, and you don't know why the child's not sleeping when it's just eating all this sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's funny.
Yeah. I don't do cocaine. I just smoke crack. So that's fine. It's not cocaine. It's not technically cocaine. Yeah, that's funny. Well, that it's great that you came across this and have got at it at such a young age as well, because most people, they come across this when they have quite serious health issues. Unfortunately, you had to sort of deal with that. Have all your health issues resolved at this point, or are you still in the process?
Yes, everything had gotten better. I'm not bloated anymore, not anxious anymore. I'm happier than ever, actually. And I feel it compared to before. My skin started clearing up a lot, no sinus issues. So I lost body fat and gained muscle mass, which was amazing because it's like that lean physique that I want. And cycle, that was really big. Always on time. It's not like really heavy or light or like long. And I think like people even listening, if you're having these irregularities, is that what I'm saying that right? I might be wrong. In your cycle, it's not normal because I've also experienced all these like things, and then now it's like always on time, no pain. And that's crazy for someone who's been dealing with pain like my whole life. And then with my thyroid as well. So I have to say that I never took, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, levothyroxine, which is a thyroid medication. Okay. I never took that because my mom had the experience with it. And I started with compounded T4, T3, because levothyroxine doesn't have T3, which we need it to provide the conversions for the thyroid, and it's absolute trash. And then you have people taking this, feeling worse, and then they end up going and getting their thyroid taken out, and instead of fixing the root cause. But so it was 6 months into carnivore, I did labs. And for the first time, my labs were always fluctuating with like T3 free, T3 reverse serum, TPO, TSH, T4, all of that. It was never within a good normal range. It was always one's okay, and then everything else is kind of bad. And with that, it's always like, can I get off this medication? No, you get it for the rest of your life, because all medication that we get, we are dependent on it. And if you're getting off of it, that's insane. And for the first time, I have 2 doctors, one in Brazil and one here. And one is okay with carnivore, one is not okay with carnivore. But for the first time, both of them, they looked at my labs and they were like, whoa, this is really good. Everything was within a normal range. Nothing was high, low. Everything was like consistent. And I was like, can I come off this medication? Like, is it working? And they were like, honestly, like everything looks so good. Like that's a possibility. You could try that. Yeah. And because I'm more, I check in more with the one in Brazil. So she was like, okay, if I were to get because she keeps up with me and like my history of labs and everything, even with the diet as well, she knows about it. She was saying, okay, yeah, with everything looking so good, we can begin to start coming off of it. And she even said, when she looked at my results, she was like, if I didn't know your history, I would look at it and say, everything is fine. You're not hyper or hypo. It's normal. So I also should mention that my dosage was already very low. So there was no need to lower it and then start coming off of it. So we started with me doing it every other day. I would take this medication every morning. So we did it every other day to see how I felt. And if I was feeling okay with that, then okay, great, keep going. And if not, then to let her know if I was feeling any symptoms, then I would have to clearly go back to every day. But I didn't feel anything. I was feeling okay. And then when it ended, I just came off of it. And ever since, I haven't taken it and I still feel great. So she's always checking in with me, are you like doing good? Because it is something serious if you don't take care of it. But I've been feeling fine. And I'm actually going to get a checkup in the next 2 months just to get, be certain that everything is still looking good. But we both think that everything is going to be fine. And yeah, it's funny because I've been doing labs all my life. Like every 6 months, I have to get everything checked because of the thyroid. And with that, you see everything else, your lipid panels and all that stuff. And on carnivore, everything was so much better. Like my liver markers, my cholesterol markers, even though they were like high. And I will say I have a high cholesterol, and I think everyone needs a high cholesterol. So everything was good. Like the LDL was extremely low, triglycerides is low, and it's all these other factors that you guys also mentioned. The CRP, I'm going to say this wrong, the fibrogenin antigen, something like that. You can get checked as well. And I get all this stuff checked and everything's great. So it's pretty cool. And actually, I do want to add, going back to with the thyroid and the cholesterol, everyone is trying to lower their cholesterol. And then same thing, so many people are getting organs taken out or so dependent on medication. And it's like, are we saying that God is wrong? Are we saying that God messed up when he made us, when he put cholesterol in our body, when he put a thyroid gland in our body? Like, did he go wrong there? Because we're taking it out. We're trying to lower it, Then it's like, I don't think he is wrong. We need it, right? We need all this stuff. So we shouldn't be trying to lower cholesterol. We shouldn't be trying to take organs out. We should be trying to fix the root cause, which is the diet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, all of that was really good because it changed my life. And it was in a moment where I was growing like spiritually, emotionally, mentally when I started carnivore, and then physically. So it was just a full like year of healing and elevating.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. And it's wonderful to hear that you did so well. And so you had full blown Hashimoto's, it sounds like. So you had the raised antibodies as well. Is that right?
No Hashimoto's, just hypothyroidism.
Okay. So you
Just
didn't have,
hypothyroidism.
okay. So you just
My
tracked.
mom, my mom,
Yeah.
my mom has Hashimoto's, and because she has Hashimoto's, she would always check with me
Okay.
just to make sure if it like passed down, because they say genetics and all of this stuff.
So,
So that's why I kept checking at early age. And go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, so you never had positive antibodies, like TPO antibodies or anything like that?
So does that mean I don't know the whole specifics of it, but I know I was never told I do get my TPO checked and everything, but it's been normal. Well, now the last one to the blood results. But I've never been told that I had Hashimoto's. It was just hypothyroidism.
If you have antibodies, those are specifically the Hashimoto's antibodies. And so if you ever have antibodies towards yourself, so the autoantibodies, that's the definition of an autoimmune issue.
Hey everyone, if you need a little extra help getting started on a carnivore diet and my online resources that I have for free aren't enough for you, you can go to www.howtocarnivore.com and sign up for a 30-day carnivore challenge where you'll have online resources, group support, weekly Zoom meetings, as well as the ability to chat live with myself, Simon Lewis, and the others in the challenge who can help you and support you and give you extra advice and help you along the way. So if that sounds like something that would be beneficial to you, then please go to howtocarnivore.com and sign up. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you there.
And so it sounds like if you had been positive for those antibodies, for the Hashimoto's antibodies, which TPO is one of them, then yes, you would have had that issue, Hashimoto. So it's funny sometimes, people just don't want to give the diagnosis, or maybe they assume someone else has given the diagnosis. But I've seen that with my patients as well. They've had, their thyroid antibodies, their Hashimoto's antibodies are, hundreds of times too high.
All over the plate. Oh, that's true.
Yeah, like back in 2015. And I was like, okay, so you've had Hashimoto's for a while now. They're like, what? I've never been told that. I was like, okay,
yeah,
that's what these are. And someone checked those for a reason. They never told you that, what this meant. They're like, nope, they never said I had anything like that. I was like, okay, well, sorry to be
so many people. Right. And when I say that I found out with hypo, it's not autoimmune, but you usually don't know that at such a young age. People they get told that when they're like older. And it's like, you should be checking that way earlier because of signs that a lot of people have, but it's never checked. It's kind of like when you're diabetic, they'll be like, okay, you're fine. Let's not check that HA1C. And then when you're dying, they're like, oh my goodness, let's check the HA1C. They're like, oh, you're diabetic. Who knew? Instead of trying to prevent it before, no, now that you're dying, let's try to fix the problem.
Yeah, it is a bit late, isn't it? When somebody starts having deranged HbA1c and deranged fasting blood sugar, they've likely had elevated insulin levels for 10 to 15 years. And that's been causing and that's been causing a lot of problems. That elevated insulin causes, just plays merry hell with your system, your metabolism, and most of your other hormones. And so you're meeting a demand, so your body's compensating for hyperglycemia, but it's taking more and more insulin to do it and to get the job done. And eventually you just sort of wear yourself out and burn yourself out. And then you can't compensate for hyperglycemia. And then we start calling, oh, now you're pre-diabetic. Now you were pre-diabetic 15 years ago. Now you've got a problem. And so, and the main way to do that is not give more insulin, which is now compounding the problem, because now you're raising the insulin even higher and causing more problems. You're getting the blood sugar under control, and that's good. Because high blood sugar is directly damaging to your body, but it's like you say, it's not addressing the root cause. It's a Band-Aid. It's a bad Band-Aid because the insulin itself causes its own problems. And the same thing with the Hashimoto's. That's a very underdiagnosed condition. I've seen so many people with Hashimoto's. So many people that just come in, they just have, a bit of problems with weight gain, can't really, shift their weight, and they are just a little low energy, just feeling off. You'd be surprised how many of those people end up having, markedly elevated Hashimoto's antibodies, and their thyroid function is a little skewed, but it's nothing that like a normal doctor would trigger them to say. Like, it's within the normal, quote unquote, normal range for the reference range for the labs, but those are wildly off because most people are sick and metabolically unhealthy. So those reference ranges are looking at people who are sick and metabolically unhealthy. And so we look at other ones, they say, okay, actually for you're in their range, but you're outside of our range. And why is that? You check their antibodies and, 600 or something like that. It's like, okay, so that's what this is. And you catch that at a time when it's just the insulin's up, the fasting insulin's up, but you're not pre-diabetic yet. And so you actually have, you can salvage more when you do that. You catch things early, and they don't have to suffer for 15 years before they get a diagnosis when they're just absolutely, destroyed. And say, oh, yeah, you have Hashimoto's. Now we can treat you. Well, what about 15 years ago when they started feeling like crap and came to you and you were like, nope, everything's within the right range. So get out.
That's true. One thing that you do mention, I do think that's true. And the labs, it's, it's more statistics, and it's not like something that you should 100% look at for accuracy of what's going on. It's also about what you feel mostly. But I do think it's a good, just a little check, and let's see where you are. But I agree with that you don't let anyone tell you how you feel. You know how you feel. If you're not okay, you're not okay.
Yeah, exactly. And, and that's the most important thing. It's something that's drilled into people, as their doctors coming up, is that you treat patients, you don't treat lab tests. Okay. The lab test is normal, but they're sick. Okay. So figure out what the hell's going on. Or, their lab, you have an aberrant blood test, but, they don't have any symptoms, they don't have any problems. Like, okay, you just sort of put an asterisk by that, you recheck it, see how they're doing, keep an eye on them, but you don't just throw medications at them.
Yes,
because something's a little bit off. Certain things may differ from that, but that's a good rule of thumb. And so even if someone's thyroid maybe is a bit off, but I was like, yeah, I feel great. Maybe it's just they don't realize they could feel a lot better. You put them on a small dose of something, you go, oh my God, I had no idea. This is a different sort of experience, but it's important to treat the patient.
It's funny because an example would be like a vitamin D3. You see the ranges, and it's like the lowest I think is 25. And some doctors, a patient could come in and it's like 30, and they'll be like, oh, you're fine. But the patient's like, I'm depressed, I'm not okay. And it's at 30, probably almost like as low as it can be, but they're like, it's fine. And then they come back and it's like, oh, now it's 24. Oh my goodness, it's 24. We need to do something.
Yeah. That's good. Or 25. Yeah, it's fine. 24. Oh my God, no. Yeah, exactly. And most people are vitamin D deficient. And so the range is going to be way lower as well. And so, yeah, no, that's a very good point. I see this a lot. I saw this with my sister growing up. She would have low iron levels and she'd feel rotten. And you could see she would get an iron transfusion or something, and her levels will be up here, and then they just start sinking down and sinking down and sinking down. And then when it hit, a certain level, she'd start feeling rotten. But her doctor wouldn't give her a transfusion until it sort of went half of where it was when she felt rotten. And then it was oh, now we can give it to you. Now you have a deficiency. Buddy, there was a deficiency way back there. And so,
right.
That always bugged me. And so, I remember that, and just saying, hey, I don't want people to have to suffer like that.
Yeah, it bothers me a lot too. And I'm like, I'm not a doctor, but goodness gracious, when you see some of these things,
it's a bit of common sense, isn't it? And when you recognize, and this was taught to me in medical school, so this was not lost on me. And I thought it was stupid then too, that the reference ranges are the average for that lab. It is not what, hey, we've we've calculated and studied this, and this range is the perfect range for vitamin D or B12 or thiamine. It's just like, yeah, what is everybody in this part of the town? What are you? Yeah, what's your normal? What's your ranges? Okay, everyone's sick and overweight and miserable.
Yeah.
That's not what you want to test yourself against. You're like, oh yeah, you're perfectly in that range of people who are sick and unhealthy and feel like crap. Great, that's me. I feel like crap, and so you need to do better than that. I was going to say too, I totally agree with you about how you're saying that, were we designed wrong? Was this stupid? Would God messed up? You don't need that thyroid, your body's just going to break down. You don't need cholesterol, all that sort of stuff. All life on Earth is battle hardened. We, the hard rule about biology is that of adaptation and survival. It's, you're adapting to your environment or you die. And plenty of people have died because they couldn't deal with with different sort of areas and environments and issues that came along. And other ones survived, and they were the ones who were able to survive. And some just got completely wiped out because something happened. And about something like 97% of all animal species that have ever existed are now extinct. They're the ones who weren't able to make it. So anything that's alive now, anything, animal, vegetable, or any other form of life, they are extremely well adapted. Their bodies are finely tuned machines, and they are not going to just have all these just springs and wires, leaking out and popping out and just having, it's like, oh, you have all this cholesterol. Oh, no, that's all crap. All this organ, yeah, just take that out. That doesn't work.
Right.
That doesn't work. And as a species, that wouldn't work genetically. So if our genetic design were so flawed, so poor, that we were just falling apart all over the place, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be alive. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Our species would not be fit to survive, and it would die, especially during the ice ages. Are you kidding me? Do you know how hard it is to live through an ice age? If you're just that sick and getting chronic diseases, if it were true, the Simon Hills of the world were right to say that, meat causes disease, and that, oh, yes, we've been eating meat for 2 million years, but that doesn't mean it's good for us. Yes, it does, Simon. Yes, it damn well does. And if you're in an ice age and you're eating meat and it's bad for you, and you're getting sick and you're getting all the chronic diseases that he attributes to eating meat, you're not making it through the ice age. That is, you don't eke your way through an ice age. You either thrive or you go extinct. That's it. You thrive or you perish. And we not only thrived, we became the most dominant species that has ever lived during the ice ages. So, we had to be really fit, really healthy, really robust. You can't do that if you're unhealthy and chronically sick and getting gout and all these sorts of things. It just doesn't happen.
And our bodies are so perfect that even when we're throwing trash in it, it still is up and going. They make our body like, oh, it's so incompetent, but it's so competent. Like but it's just own.
It is amazing. We can, it is a testimony. We're designed to eat meat. That's what we do best on. That's what we've been eating for millions of years. And yet we're eating all this plant garbage, high octane, poison, and this processed foods and these industrial solvents and lubricants that didn't even exist 100 years ago. Some of this didn't exist last year. And yet we're putting this stuff into our body, and our bodies, detoxifying and doing all this amazing things to sort of clear this stuff out as much as possible so that we can live. And we can live. And it's pretty amazing, but it doesn't mean it doesn't come without a cost. And so, that's the natural state of humanity, the natural state of all life is that of health. If the natural state of any species was unhealth, they get eradicated. They'd all die out. You can't live like that. If you're not able to beat out other species, you're dead. And so if you're just a really sickly, terrible example of life, you're not going to make it. You're going to get beat out. You're going to get eaten. You're going to go the way of the dodo. It's just not going to happen. We've dealt with some crazy trials and tribulations, and we're here. We're standing on top of the world. And now we're starting to be our own undoing. No other, animal or life on earth was able to best us. And now we're besting ourselves. We're making ourselves sicker and weaker. And, that's the only thing. Maybe that's what, I forget who said it, but they said that humans are the only animals smart enough to make our own food and the only ones dumb enough to eat it.
Kept trying to change everything about it, but nothing was working. So she comes to me, she's like, we have to buy this course. It was a Carnivore 30-day course. And I was like, what? And she was like, we have to do it. People are losing weight and they're getting better. They're curing autoimmune issues. And I'm like, oh goodness, what is this now? And she showed me, and she's like, oh, I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, you eat meat. And I'm like, hold on, what? Like, only meat?